Good afternoon, guys, and welcome to the podcast. From South Carolina, I've got Jeremiah and Jonah, the banking brothers, and they are entrepreneurs, they're speakers, and they've got a very fascinating story around financial freedom, financial literacy, and building generational wealth. And I'm really happy to have them on and have a great conversation for the audience. Guys, welcome.
Thank
Hey,
you.
thank
Glad
you.
to be here, man.
Yeah. Briefly introduce yourselves, your story, and we'll dive into the questions.
I'm the older brother. I tend to go first when I'm talking. Yes, this is my actual real life brother, but we are the Banking Bros, and you can find us on our socials at the Banking Bros. So we've been brothers for a long time, but 10 years ago, someone shared with us a financial system that we adopted personally in our lives. And we, 7 years ago, started educating and helping other people in business with that same idea. So we both have families, dads, kids in South Carolina. And for the last 7 years, we've been helping people create code cracking cash flow in what we do.
Yeah. For me, right when I got out of school, I'm a younger brother, right? So right when I got out of school, I started the traditional job path and method. Got a pretty good job. Actually, mom called me and said, they've got good jobs down here. You should come get one. And so I did over at a local banking institution. It's actually a pretty big bank. You've probably heard of it. And I was there for a few years and I thought it's probably not my thing. And so I transitioned into helping people with insurance, which is car and auto insurance at the time. P&C insurance is what they call it. And I did that for a few years and I thought, I'm enjoying it, but maybe there's something more out there. And that was about the time that someone introduced both of us to what we'll talk about, I'm sure, on this podcast and what I've been doing legitimately for the last 7 or 8 years. I'm pushing a decade of helping people specifically with this idea and this concept that we'll talk about. So that's just a little bit about me for the audience out there.
Yeah. And this podcast is all about financial literacy and empowerment. And so you talk about the cash compound. And so talk about what it is and how it empowers and enables individuals to achieve financial independence, financial freedom, etc.
Now, that's a deep question, so we'll get into it. The Cash Compound is a community of educational tools, starting out with coaching to help people with code cracking cash flow. Our financial foundation is teaching people the infinite banking concept. We call it, and we've dubbed it, the save and spend system. So we're teaching people how to save and spend money at the exact same time. So we have a fundamental approach to helping people understand three problems or unwinding three problems and being able to pursue financial freedom, just like you said, through education with lots and lots of free education to help people understand that. So it is a product and a process. And first off, we got to help people understand the problem. The problem for most people is just something that is so misunderstood in our world that most people, actually, most Americans, working people, good people, they have no idea that they have actually an interest problem. Banking is happening all around us, but we don't actually control the banking function in our own lives. And that's what the infinite banking concept solves, is how to control the banking function. And the banking function is where interest is either leaving your family forever or interest can be recaptured and held inside the save and spend system. So that's what we teach people. We do it with a lot less big words, and we help people with video and all sorts of educational tools, and especially one-on-one coaching. That's absolutely free in our community.
Yeah, we've discovered that everybody's financial situation are unique to them, right? So a lot of times you could be like, oh, I'm in debt, I want to pay it off. And that might be true for a lot of people, even in your circle, your sphere of influence. But that doesn't mean that they've all got the same debts or make the same income or have the same path and story that you've got. So we love inside of our community to do this one-on-one coaching that we do. We walk through your situation and what's happening in your world so we can help you on the path to, like we said, cracking that code to cash flow, or like you said, Dr. Lou, financial freedom.
Interesting. So the would zoom out a little bit and just essentially just talking about financial literacy and empowerment, and why do so many people struggle these days? You hear the downsides of everybody said that you want to get a lifetime job, go work for the government, and now even a government job isn't safe. Why do people struggle with financial concepts and lack of control over their finances?
There's a lot of reasons to that, and it starts with the education that we grew up with. Money's taboo. It's uncomfortable for so many families. And in school, I went to school probably like you every day of my life from 5 to 25, right? I got a college degree, but when we started in kindergarten, we counted up a couple pennies, dimes, and nickels. And I went to math class after that every single day in school. And maybe junior year, as an upperclassman, we had a consumer week. We learned to write a check back in my day or something like that, or balance the budget.
Yep.
And I went to math every single day. And those are the only 2 times we talked about money. The rest of the time, we were trying to fix triangles. So when we become adults, we're like, what is going on? It's tax season right now. What is going on? And so family, as well as formal education and schooling, we didn't talk about these things. That's some of it. And then I think in the career world, there's more problems.
Yeah, I think you can get a decent education around money and finance if you go to school for those sort of things and higher education. But if you're coming through the traditional paths, the typical paths, right? You just talked about tax time. I don't remember a course, I'm pretty sure there isn't one, when I was coming up that talked about fixing or how to do your taxes. There wasn't a specific course on that. And so the average American is not going to have that. Now, again, you can go for those specific paths in higher education, but for the general education world, there wasn't one. Or credit. Credit's a big deal. You've got to know about it, right? And so if they don't teach you that in your formal education, and if in your family, money is this taboo subject, you might not be talking about that either. And then all of a sudden you get into the real world, you're out there being an adult, and they're trying to tell you, good luck making any purchases without credit, or at least the purchases that you really feel like you need to make or that I'd really want. And so all of a sudden, all these things that would be really helpful to know, we don't know. And what we do is we look for advice. We turn, our heads to the left and right to anyone who's giving the advice out there. And especially if you can resonate with any piece of that advice, all of a sudden that person's advice becomes truth. And I'm now going to listen to everything that they say.
Right.
And as you continue learning, you start to realize, oh, that was really good advice for that piece, that area. And this other person's got a really good piece of advice for that piece or this area. And I needed to actually go learn more. And I think a lot of people also have this arrival syndrome, right? Once I discover the one YouTube channel I like, then I'll just watch all those videos and I'll be good to go. That person knows.
Oh, yeah.
It's interesting because I remember they taught us in like during elementary or grade school, they called this a financial literacy class, and it was how to balance a checkbook.
Right.
And obviously we know the usefulness and what was really interesting was I came across a book a couple years ago, and it was talking about the battle between labor and capital. And you see the rich, they know it's basically a battle of capital. They know how to use credit and debt wisely, whereas average people are using credit and debt to get into more debt. And why is it that schools teach us to get a job as opposed to learn how to use money to work for us?
There's a lot of great conspiracies around that one. I don't know if this is a conspiracy channel or not, or a podcast on that, but years and years ago, as our country industrialized in the 19th century, a lot of people started to get off of subsistence on farms and started moving into factories, and they started moving from rural areas into cities, right? So production became a big thing. So people started working in places where someone else took care of them, and they didn't learn or have to live off the land anymore. They didn't learn from the land, live off the land, or stay with their families anymore as much. So what happened is now we've got this new concept of retirement or a weekend. So how do I have enough money? Because I need money now to transact. I don't grow all of my own food. So now I need someone else to take care of my latter years, my later years. Those things and many other things contributed to the fact that America became America's main business is business. So over the course of the 20th century, a huge government, a war took us into the second half of the 20th century. Everything got bigger. Bureaucracy got bigger. White collar is now a thing. And now people are specialized to work for big companies, and they don't know what they don't know about Wall Street, about investing, about long-term retirement, about qualified plans. All these things came into being just in that time frame, right? So now we've got income taxes. That didn't exist when you were on the farm. So those things have thrown people off. And what we're trying to do is bring them back to cash flow, no matter what your situation is. If you have debt or don't have debt, if you're old or young, fat, skinny, white or black, it's cash flow. If someone dies, it's cash flow. If someone lives, it's cash flow. So we're helping people understand that through a fundamental product that always brings cash flow, guaranteed, no risks, always is going to provide for people. So we help people understand that. And the reason we got here is plenty of conspiracies.
And like we'll talk one final, because I know Robert Kiyosaki talks about cash flow, and a lot of real estate investors, they talk about cash flow. The a follow-up question I have for you is, when you were talking about we industrialized and we had, and basically the job, that was a thing to afford your lifestyle, was the job. And now post COVID, we see now people are getting laid off via text. So it's
Yeah.
you wake up, you have a text saying don't come in, or a robot's gonna take over your job or something. Is it, in today's day and age, is it safe to bust your butt, get into debt, go to school, learn a trade or profession or skill, and work for a corporation versus to start your own business, start your own side income? Talk about the risk, how risky it is to devote your entire life to a job.
Man, I think it's the answer to that one depends on who you ask, right? If you're going to ask a millennial or a Gen Z, help me with the generations here. What's after Gen Z?
Who knows?
If you keep getting younger and
Gen
you
Alpha,
ask those
Gen Alpha.
folks, yeah, Gen Alpha, if you keep getting younger and you ask those people, they are going to adamantly disagree that they are going to work hard, bust their butt, get a good job. They're going to adamantly disagree. They're going to say no chance in the world, not when they can make millions of dollars sitting on YouTube or opening presents or toys, right?
Right.
We're just not going to do it.
Right.
Now, if you go the other direction and you get older, so I think I'm going to cap it at millennial here. So now we're going Gen Y. Am I going the right way? Gen Z, Gen Y. Anyway, as you get older, those folks are still more in that mentality of, back in my day, you could work really hard. Maybe you could get a pension. You could get the retirement plan. You could use one or two, maybe even just one, vehicles in order to set yourself up for retirement. What really, I think the answer is that the world's just changing. The world's just changing. The average home price used to be really low. We talked about this actually recently, right? Grandma and grandpa bought their house for $12,000. They're still living in it.
Right.
If you ask anyone 35 and under, if they're getting any sort of house for $12,000, they're going to laugh at you and they're going to say they won't even let me into the meeting for the house with $12,000, right?
Yeah.
And so because of that, I think the world's just changing. And if the world is just changing, that means the people who are growing up, the new generations who are coming to fruition, coming to the workforce, becoming of age, are going to say, no, you have to figure out cash flow. We've got to figure out the main source of income, the side hustles. Maybe we can make the side hustle make enough to be the main source of income, and they're still going to do something on the side. They understand the world that we live in. And so I think we're just moving away from this idea that we can go to school, get good grades, get a good job. If you're lucky enough to be in that position, that's awesome. But I don't think that the average American 35 and under, the people coming into the workforce, even remotely believe that to be true anymore.
Yeah, so well said. And so we'll talk about, because you talk about the IBC, which is this infinite banking concept, and talk about actionable methods to grow and protect money and proven strategies to help families create and sustain wealth across generations.
It's a great question. If you put your money in the right place in the first place, it's already going to do that. That's what we discovered. Someone told us 10 years ago that if we actually paid ourselves first, we'd win every time. We've heard this. You just mentioned Robert Kiyosaki. We had read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. The question is, am I already doing that? Isn't it going to work out? Or is there some new place? Turns out the oldest personal financial product is the new place. The new place is the first thing you could have ever done. And that product that I mentioned earlier is whole life insurance, dividend paying, whole life insurance, participating from a mutual company. That is as old as the Civil War. And if you set your money in there, give or buy insurance, your money automatically doubled, tripled, or quadrupled. There is a death benefit waiting for your family legacy. It is guaranteed. You bought that money. Now, let that simmer and sit for a second. You bought money, you rubbed the lamp, and the genie said, you can wish for more wishes. Give us one, we'll give you 100 or 1,000. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to leverage that money. Because we bought it, there'll be ever-increasing equity, liquid pools, income tax-free, that you can use all the time. There'll be more tomorrow because it's equity. There'll just be more. So we're now going to save our money and spend someone else's.
Yeah. I think this can be really confusing. So just in case you're a first-time listener out there and you're hearing what in the world infinite banking is, let me be helpful. We said infinite banking happens inside of whole life insurance. And if you know anything about insurance, you're probably thinking, hold on, there's a couple of really famous people out there, whether they get on YouTube or Instagram or create the short, who knows what they're doing. And they say that if I want insurance, I should actually use term insurance.
Right.
But here's the key differentiator, right? Is that we got on this podcast talking about financial freedom, not talking about life insurance. What we said is we want to save our money in an environment where the money's guaranteed to grow and then have cash flow. We've said that a few times on this episode. And that's the reason we're using whole life insurance, not just life insurance proceeds and benefit. And a lot of people get that confused because they go, hold on a second, I've heard about whole life and I'm not supposed to use that one.
Right.
And we went, oh, we're solving cash flow, not life insurance. There are other aspects. It's very similar to owning a home or renting a home, right? If you're going for the cheapest option out there, then you've got to rent a home. Everybody understands owning a home is a little bit more expensive. You've got the taxes you got to pay, right? If something breaks, you're responsible to fix it. If you want to upgrade it, and it costs some money here, right? It's going to be more expensive over the long haul, but you get different benefits. There's different value in owning a home. And that's what we're doing inside of whole life insurance, practicing infinite banking. We're using whole life insurance for the purpose, the benefits, the value of infinite banking, not just solving the life insurance question. We get that one too, but that's the secondary benefit to infinite banking.
Interesting. And talk about the income that you get from this method, or what are the tax implications? Do you save? Do you have to spend? Talk about how that money is taxed.
Hey, the beautiful thing, Dr. Lou, is that the income that you mentioned is invisible. Meaning that when we are buying insurance, God forbid you crash your car today and Jake from State Farm pops up like a good neighbor, right?
Mm-hmm. Hey, I've seen those commercials. Every time they sing the song, he pops up. I've tried it before. He didn't pop up in my driveway.
But when that happens, that check, those proceeds, that claim, not taxable. Insurance is not income. On top of that, when we're leveraging borrowing against our policy or leveraging it, that's not income either. So we're taking loans against a value of money that we've purchased that is coming from the insurance company. Read my lips. If you're old enough for this, if you are a Gen X, this one, read my lips. No new taxes. Okay. You remember. All right. There we go. Dr. Lunos. Okay. No new taxes. So cash value, borrowing against your policy, is going to be income tax free because it's not income. So it's very important for people to understand as well that when we're utilizing these types of policies and the system of leveraging it, there's nothing to worry about, nothing to report at all when it comes to that. So we're going to be able to save our money and spend theirs, cash value from our policy. We're going to be able to spend theirs on taxes, spend theirs on vacations, spend theirs at your birthday party. We hope we're invited.
Interesting. Yeah, and obviously the rich know about this strategy, and and I love the work that you're doing. How can people, if they're interested, can they find you, follow your YouTube channel, connect with you, etc.?
Yeah, they can absolutely do that. If you're interested in learning more, where you want to head is thebankingbros.com. Now, if you're a social media person, and I do mean all of them, I think we got all of them these days. And I'm talking Twitter or X, I guess it's called, Instagram and Facebook and What am I missing? TikTok.
Right.
We are the banking bros. That's what we do. And we teach people this infinite banking concept. From time to time, we get on there talking about some other practical finance tips.
Mhm.
But most of the time, we're talking about infinite banking and how it relates to you or how it relates to us or something cool somebody just did who's connected to us with infinite banking. So thebankingbros.com or the Banking Bros on all social media platforms. That's how you're going to find us and be able to learn more. We mentioned at the very start of the show, we love to have personalized conversations when people want to know more about, does infinite banking work for me? My situation's like this. And so
Right.
we do those completely free of charge. We
Mhm.
want to reach out to you. We want you to reach out to us. We want to talk you through your situation and see if it's a good fit.
Yeah, I love that. I really love connecting with like-minded individuals, encouraging and mission of financial literacy and empowerment, building generational wealth and financial independence. And I really enjoyed this conversation and keep up the great work.
Appreciate
thank
you.
you.
Thank you for